Apparo Solutions. Secure data quality. Apparo offers several ways to ensure data quality. Data checking is performed, regardless of the method of data entry, whether manually inserted or imported from Excel. Basically, there are two ways to check data: validation on row level, which can compare values, or check them directly. Validation on widget level, checking one entry only. Further information can be found in the corresponding data quality document on apparo.solutions. The example business case can be found in our public demo, which is also linked from our website. In the first part, we handle the data row validation, where we include two checks. We check if the widget, amount per year, contains a value, and if the sum of the quarters is smaller than the amount per year. First, we activate the data row validation in the Features menu in the upper right corner. In the left menu, the entry Data Row Validation appears. Data row validation uses simple JavaScript that is running server-side to check the data values of a data row in relation to each other, or to check only one or more entries independently. The data row validation help can be called by clicking the gray question mark. The help contains several examples. With the variable picker next to the help icon, you can select and insert any custom or predefined variable. Step 1 in our row validation script is an empty result, which means the data is valid. To do this, we define the variable result and fill it with an empty string. Then we need variables for the year and for the 4 quarters. We define the variable year and fill it with the content of the widget for the amount per year. We use the variables picker to insert the corresponding widget reference variable. We repeat these steps to create variables for the 4 quarters, which we call Q1, Q2, Q3, and Q4. Let's start with the first check. If sum of the year is smaller than the sum of all quarters, then result must be the error message, sum of the quarters is greater than the amount per year. Now let's add the second check. If year is null, or if year is 0, then the error message must be, please enter an amount for the year. Last but not least, we have to return the result. Before we run the first test, we do the syntax check. Everything seems to be okay, let's start. We remove the value for the year, and click OK. But instead of returning the defined error message, the system tells us that there is an error in the row validation script. I enter a 1 for the amount, and see that the second check works correctly. Time to check the logs for the error. The system log can be accessed via the Apparo Designer, or via the log file in the logs folder of the Apparo installation. Our log level is set to detail, so that it contains more information, for example a detailed view for variable problems. We generally recommend the detail mode when developing business cases. Here we see the problem, an error in the row validation script. The error message shows the problem, the empty widget reference breaks the script. We replace the widget reference variable with the method AFE, resolve variable. This directly assigns a value to the year, and this cannot be nothing. We try it again, and this time it works properly. Let us improve this script a little bit. At the moment, if the first condition hits, it fills the result with the first error message. If the second condition also hits, it will simply overwrite the first error with the second error message. Let's pretend we got 10 or more data checks for each row. I would leave more comments here. Check number 1, followed by a short explanation. The same for check number 2, and all following checks. What do we need to build the error messages for several checks? We need a variable, let's say check result, that stores an array of values. And the variable, I, as counter for the loop. We replace result with check result, and use push, to add the error message to the array. We do the same with check number 2. When creating the error message, it must first be checked, whether error messages are present in the array. If it is empty, the length would be 0. So the condition is, check result.length, is greater than 0. Then the loop follows. It starts the count at 0, and continues until all error messages are included, increasing the counter by 1 in each loop. Result is equal to the previous result, plus the error text from the current loop, plus a line break, to start the next error message in a new line. Length with n. Let's give it a try. Syntax check, and run the business case. We remove the amount for the year, and try to save the data. The error message appears, we are not allowed to save this empty value. Both conditions apply, therefore 2 error messages. Let's see how it looks, when using Excel file import. All matching error messages are displayed for each line. And in the corresponding error list file, we see the same result. Instead of error messages, warnings can also be issued. To turn an error message into a warning, simply prefix Apparo-warning : all in capital letters. The difference, error messages prevent the data from being saved. Warnings output the message, but the entered values are saved normally. As a last step, we add a language switcher here. We have installed German and English. English is our fallback language, which means that if the user's language is other than German or English, then English is automatically used. We copy the block with the checks, and put another if condition in front of it. If language equals DE, which means German, then use German error messages. Else, use the English error messages. One last check. With the German interface, the user receives the German error messages. We now come to part 2, data validation at widget level. In the widget settings, in data output format, you can define the desired data formats, and also enable for example date pickers, which are preventing wrong dates. Date and number formats allow the use of limits. Limits can be defined as a validity interval, or as a validity interval, as a percentage of the old value. Interval limits can be set as a number, which means fixed value, or dynamically calculated using variables. Outside the limits we have set, the user receives an error message. Text type widgets also allow the use of regular expressions. With regular expressions you can define which characters are allowed. For example, only numbers and letters, but no special characters. The help contains the basic syntax reference. Last but not least, you can use custom Java Validator classes to check the validity of your data. This can be used at widget level, and also with the data row validator. The help contains everything you need to get started with this feature. For our example we use the Apparo string validator, which returns an error if the inserted string does not start with Apparo. First try with the string test. the error is raised. Second try. The string starts with Apparo, and it works. The use of lookups can also prevent users from entering incorrect data. Lookups allow the use of different database connections, which means the lookup tables can be located on any database. You can also use variables for all settings. Our lookup table contains the columns product name EN and product name DE, and the language variable will automatically select the product name column in the user's language. With lookups, users can optionally only select existing values. And when using Excel import, products that are not in the list will return an error message. For more information and a free trial, visit us on apparo.solutions.